Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pride Outside the Cities, how LGBTQ women are running and winning across the country. My name is Lisa Turner, and I am your moderator for this esteemed panel here this afternoon. Before we get started, I want to say a few housekeeping items. One, as most of you know, this session is recorded. Two, please put any questions that you have for the panelists in the Q&A. The chat is really for technical difficulties and other sort of challenges we may have along the way. And three, we're going to do our best to wrap this session up around 4:50 to 4:55 Eastern time so we can sign off and make sure you all get to the next session. You're always welcome to go to the virtual hallway right outside here and to continue the great discussion with any of our panelists or our hosts. Well, let's get started. First, let me thank Emerge for putting together this panel. Every one of our panelists are actually graduates of the Emerge program. Emerge, as you all know, is one of the premier training organizations for LGBTQ women, straight women, and pro-choice women around the country. They have over 27 state affiliates. They've trained over 4,000 women since they came into existence in 2002, and they currently have, I believe, over 740 graduates serving in elected office around the country. So thank you, Danielle Noel, for putting this together, for keeping us on track. She's the Deputy Communications Director for the national organization called Emerge. Let me set the stage a little bit. Like I said, my name is Lisa Turner. I'm the Political Director of LPAC. Whether or not I said that, I don't know, but let me say it again. I'm the Political Director of LPAC, where our job primarily is to elect LGBTQ women to the federal, state, and local level of government. One of the things that I've experienced in my almost 30 years of political work, of running campaigns, building organizations, and electing people to office is that there's just not enough LGBTQ women serving around the country. We know that's a fact. We know it from Congress, where we only have 2 openly gay women serving in the House. We have 2 in the US Senate. We have a handful serving statewide as attorney generals, secretary of states. We have a few major city mayors, as you all know, as well as local officials. But where the biggest gap still remains is state legislative seats and other opportunities for LGBTQ women to run and win. There's over 7,383 seats in state legislatures around the country. Over 4,600 of those are up in 2020 alone. Currently, there's only 163 elected LGBTQ people. Of the 163, there are 83 that are LGBTQ women, and 4 of them are openly transgender women. Now, here's the good news. We've already added 5 through primaries this cycle to our ranks, but there's still a lot of elections to go this cycle. We have the potential of adding 14 openly LGBTQ women, including 2 of those being transgender women. But as I said at the outset, there's 7,383 state legislative seats. And when you think about adding 14 to the 83, that's not a lot. So we have a lot of work to do. And where we run and win those seats can't always be in cities where there are competitive primaries with other progressive candidates. We have to start growing, and we've continued to grow, especially since 2016, in the suburbs, in rural areas, and in places that are exurbs, in places that Democrats, pro-choice Democrats, LGBTQ people have never run and won before. So the conversation today with our panelists is going to be not only how we do that, what's their experience been, what sort of advice they have for others that are thinking about it, the challenges that they faced, and what do they see as the path ahead. So before we get started, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to say a little something about themselves for a minute or two, and then we're going to get into the questions, and then we're going to open it up to the questions that you will put into the Q&A. So Chantel Lewis, who is serving in Colorado on the Regional Transportation Board of Directors, if you could say a little bit about yourself, that would be terrific, and kick us off.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. As Lisa said, I am Chantel Lewis. I am with the Regional Transportation District for District B, that's in Denver, Colorado. That's our major public transportation system. I am actually the second openly gay Black woman to run and be elected for office, which I am extremely proud of that. I serve on the Civil Rights Committee within RTD, and I also serve on our Operations and Customer Service Committee within RTD. I'm a Colorado native, born and raised, and I'm excited to serve and to be a part of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Let me turn now to Delegate Danica Roem, who in 2017 made history, not only in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but also nationally. As most of you know, she's quite famous in and of herself for what she's done in the subject matter of this particular panel. But Delegate Roem, if you could say a few words about yourself, that would be terrific.
Sure. So my name is Danica Roem. I represent the 13th District of the Virginia House of Delegates, which includes the City of Manassas Park and the Western Prince William County portions of Haymarket, Gainesville, and my lifelong home Manassas here in Northern Virginia. So, you know, without bad traffic, we're about an hour southwest of DC, though bad traffic is kind of what we do here. I was, earned election in 2017, re-elected in 2019 to become the first out-and-seated trans state legislator in the United States. But at the same time, being a party of one, that's nice for the headlines, but gets kind of lonely. So I was really happy that not only did Representative Tatone join us in 2018, but so did Representatives Jerry Cannon and Lisa Buckner in New Hampshire. And we actually have a number of trans candidates who have running for state legislature this year who have advanced to the general election. Taylor Small, she's a lock to win up in Vermont. I'm extremely excited that she just won her primary. Sarah McBride, we know she's going to crush it in the state senate for in Delaware. Really proud of her. Stephanie Byers is the front runner in Kansas, of all places. So that would be a wonderful win. And then we even have candidates from Maine to Texas to Pennsylvania to just places throughout the country right now where we have a chance to really make some inroads and hopefully double our 4-member strong nationwide out trans caucus. But the stuff I tend to work on, I work a lot of transportation policy, and which I know Director Lewis appreciates. And at the same time, I work a lot on feeding hungry kids. And so I got a lot of bills passed about that this year. And, the thing I'm most proud of in the last 2 years is the fact that we managed to expand Medicaid after the previous majority had blocked it, but we got the job done. All of us campaigned on it in 2017. And, with the help of my training from Emerge, with the help of my endorsement from LPAC, by the way, so thank you all for that. I was able to earn election, and we've now enrolled as of August 1st, since January 1st, 2019 through August 1st of this month, we've now enrolled 448,335 Virginia adults in Medicaid expansion. And at a time of a national and worldwide pandemic, I can't imagine leaving 17,807 people in, the Prince William County and 674 people in Manassas Park uninsured. But, we got the job done. And that's the thing that I hope that people take from this is that, the decisions that we make as policymakers, as legislators, this literally affects people's healthcare. It literally affects whether or not you're going to be taken care of in your time of need. And so I'm really glad that, we've gotten the job done. We've won our Democratic trifectas, both in Colorado and Virginia, and we get stuff done with it, not to mention Washington as well. And, we hope to see even more to come. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Delegate. And another exciting 2018 race, Delegate Brianna Tatone, and your close race that you ran and won to come from behind in Colorado in 2018. Please take a few moments to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me here. My name is Brianna Tato, and I represent the people of House District 27 in Colorado. That's a suburb of Denver, covering Arvada and northern Jefferson County. And we just barely won my race. 439 votes was the margin out of nearly 50,000 votes that were counted. On election night, I was actually losing. But that's one of the weird side effects we have of mail-in ballots and dropping off your ballots. People wait till the last minute, they drop them in the box, and they count all the ballots that come in before then, but there's no way they can count them all on the last day. So 20,000 votes were counted over the next couple days to push me over the edge, and I've been working really hard to do the work of the people of House District 27 and make sure that they understand that they deserve a hardworking legislator who is doing the interests of the district and have their best interest in mind. And that's what I've done. And people will remember that when they cast their ballot and vote for me in November again. But we're not taking anything for granted. We're working really hard to continue to win this year because representation is so important. This is a really important race to win.
Thank you so much. What an exciting year, 2017, 2018, 2019. Oh my God. Claire, State Senator Claire Wilson from the great state of Washington. Another big win in 2018. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks so much. I'm honored to be here today. Again, my name is Claire Wilson. I do represent the 30th Legislative District in the State Senate in the state of Washington. I am the first openly lesbian woman and state senator, and I will say there were 2 of us that were elected when I was elected in 2017, so we doubled our number in the Senate, and between the House and the Senate have enough to have a caucus, which is absolutely wonderful. And I'll say I live in an area that is outside the city of Seattle, that is very much, 2016, we flipped both House seats. Hillary won by 20 points, but we had a Republican that had been sitting in the Senate seat for quite a long time who did everything not to represent the constituents in the 30th Legislative District, particularly myself and many others that looked like me. And so decided I would do what I needed to do, walked over 2 million steps and knocked on over 36,000 doors and was happy to win and to sit in the Senate and to make sure that representation is there. We have more work to do. I walk with privilege and I know that, but I use that every single day to make sure that I create space for others. And that's exactly what Emerge has given me the opportunity to do. Worked in my community for 35 years. Now I'm on the inside. You don't have to convince me about anything. Just tell me what the solutions are and we can get to work.
Thank you. And I'm going to kick it off with a question, and I'd like you all to weigh in. And I touched on it a little bit. Delegate Roem touched on it as well. But the first question is really about LGBTQ women making tremendous strides over the last few election cycle. And as was mentioned earlier, Delegate Roem's election was historic. It was the first trans person elected in a state legislature to serve. But we still have so much further to go, not only in state legislatures, but in Congress and statewide offices and local elections. If you all don't mind weighing in a little bit about how we can increase these numbers over the next couple election cycles, it would be great to hear your perspective. Why don't we start with you, Chantel, if you don't mind?
Thank you so much. No, I do not mind at all. The answer is actually pretty quick for me and pretty simple for me. One of the things that I've really committed to doing as an elected official, as a Black woman, as a queer woman, as a woman, is to bring folks alongside of me. And so to find students in high school who might be interested in public transportation, who take public transportation, and to teach them the inner workings of what it means to serve in the capacity as an elected official for our public transportation system. And so I would say mentorship is one of the things that is really going to help broaden our reach And so thinking about who is the person when you are no longer in these seats, who are the people or the persons that you would like to groom, to educate, to provide that knowledge, to provide that coaching for, to be able to take those seats, and to remind folks to run, right? To run no matter what your identity is. And recognizing that your identity is actually your expertise, right? Is an expertise for you to be able to develop policy, for you to make decisions, for you to make strategic decisions around safety or whatever the needs are for your communities. I think sometimes our identities, our social identities are used sometimes to think about a distraction, right? Like if you're a lesbian or if you're a gay male or if you are trans, that doesn't qualify you to run for office, and to remember that it absolutely does qualify you to run for office, because we think about the things from a broader perspective when you think about progressive politics. Those who can understand those who are oppressed tend to better represent them. And so I'd say coach, bring folks with you, educate. Don't be afraid of educating folks when they're 12 and 6 and 8, right? No one's ever too young to learn and start to build that bench. Thank you.
Sounds great. Delegate Roem, what are your thoughts on this? And you all please build it out too, as much as you want to. We've heard about mentorship, being visible. What other things should we be thinking about? Because we know these are big campaigns that you all have run and won.
Well, the first piece of advice I give is the same piece of advice I gave to now Representative Tatone, which is go get trained. When she reached out to me after the 2017 campaign, she said, hey, I've always wanted to serve. And at the same time, I didn't know, that was going to be possible as a trans person until I saw you on. But at the same time, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to get ready? And so I referred her to the LGBTQ Victory Institute's candidate campaign training. She went, she got trained. I also referred her to the Emerge Colorado training for Democratic women. And she went, she got trained, and she won. And, there is a difference between, for me as a reporter turned legislator, from looking at politics from the front row on the outside versus having a seat on the inside. These training programs bring you into the nuts and bolts of an organization that you might not otherwise have that experience with, where, look, I spent all the time in the world dealing with public policy issues affecting the people I now serve: traffic, jobs, schools, healthcare, equality. At the same time, I was never a part of a campaign. I was never volunteer for campaign, I never did any of that sort of stuff, because my job as a reporter was to be a neutral, dispassionate, third-party observer. And what I ended up doing by going to these training programs, and then the Virginia House Democratic Caucus held a 2-day training program. So I went to that one. And then the candidates, the Democratic nominees in 2015 and 2013, they held a training, and I went to that one. So I had 10 days of training by the time that, by the end of the first quarter of 2017, I was trained, I was ready. I was, I knew what I needed to do to win at that point. And what I would recommend to people is figure out your strengths and remember the message box: what we say about us, what we say about them, what they say about them, what they say about us. When you really focus on that, what we say about us, what do I say about myself? This is really where you're trying to figure out what is your skill strength. What are those qualifications that you bring to the table by your inherent being? Because I'm a big believer in the idea that you can succeed because of who you are, not despite it, and not for what discriminatory politicians tell you you're supposed to be in the first place. What do you bring forward to the table? And as an LGBTQ woman, what we bring to the table, number one, is authenticity and honesty. If you can trust us, especially for Representative Tatone and myself, to put ourselves out there as who we are, knowing fully well that could result in us being assaulted, as we're going door to door, for example, and we are willing to be honest about who we are, well, then chances are we're going to be really honest with you once we get into office as well. That's something I actually learned from Senator Tammy Baldwin, and why she's been successful at every level of government that she's run for, is people see her as being honest with them. And that's because she is. And I think that that's a great lesson that we can basically bring forward, is if you speak not just authentically, not just honestly, but you've also demonstrated that you know your public policy issues inside and out, you're well versed on the issues, and when you are talking to people, you're not selling yourself per se. You are asking people, what can I do for you? What I say at the doors when I introduce myself is I say, hey, working to fix Route 28 is my top issue, but I want to hear from you. What issues are most important to you? And then people tell me whatever's on their mind. That's where I want us to go, both as Democrats, as LGBTQ women, is making sure that we play to our inherent skill strength of bringing other people in, listening to other people, and being collaborative as we actually go about problem solving. So the last thing I'll just mention here is someone mentioned in the comments from Wendy Baum, who said, could all the panelists talk about what you've said to yourself for a boost when you felt like your identities weren't being honored by the constituents you were talking to as you were running? What I would tell you, because I feel like, this kind of, fell well into this, is that you don't need another person to validate your identity. You don't need someone else to tell you who you are. That's you. That's what you do. And look, I've spent the last 8 years seeing my psychologist, for example. That's good because, there are people who we go to who can help us when we need help. That's a good thing. At the same time, you don't need someone else who you're just randomly meeting to have to play the role of affirmer-in-chief for you. Your job as a candidate is to figure out what helps them, what is good for their community, what's a good public policy, what can you bring forward, and what ideas are they pitching to you that you can then deliver on. And so that's the thing I would just circle back to, is remember that most people at the doors, the overwhelming majority of them, they don't really give a damn what your gender is. They don't really give a damn about your personal life. They don't give a damn about any of them. I have Republicans here in Signal Hill Precinct who have put my yard sign out before, and just like, why? And it's like, to quote one of them to me, who's a retired police officer, he goes, Danica, I don't give a damn about your personal life. Fix my commute. We have to remember that part. And when transphobia does come up, and it does happen at the doors, Representative Tony and I are not immune to it. It has certainly happened. That's not the overwhelming majority. It's just what we remember and we overinflate in our own minds because it's a direct attack on the core of our identity. But it's not representative of the thousands upon thousands of people whose votes we're asking for in the first place, and the tens of thousands of people who we represent in the first place. So it's so important to just bring it all home, and also remember that for every one of us who wins, there's a kid out there who sees what we do and they say, if she can do it, so can I. I hear it all the time, and it's true.
Thank you. And then Representative Totone, can you talk a little bit about how to actually, we've heard now a couple different angles and good practical advice on how to make it happen, how to win. What about increasing the numbers? What about increasing the numbers at the local and state level specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. We all bring a lot to the table, as Delegate Roem was saying, and we have to realize and be honest with ourselves that we can bring a lot of that to light in the political world. And you just have to really dig down inside and find the courage to actually run and get the training and do it. And you bring a lot of that value to the table. So I think that it really starts with individuals realizing that, there are things that are going on in their community that are not being solved. Are you a problem solver? Then you're great for this role. Get the training, take part in the campaign, understand what it's about, and prepare yourself. Find the right role that's good for you, whether it's at the city council level or the county level or in one of the other positions is RTD or transportation director. There's school board positions. There's so many different places that you can be an expert in, and you can lend your experiences and your talents and put them to good use. And it's not, don't let your identity be a barrier to you. Just really focus on what you bring and how you're going to do it, and make the people important. People are the most important thing. When I talk to people at the doors, the first thing I say is, I introduce myself and I'm saying, I'm here to find out what's important to you. What can I do to help you? What's bugging you? What's the issue of the day or the week or the year? What is it? How can I help? And, politicians historically for a long time haven't been focused on that. And if you really have it inside you, you have to have that passion to do this job. And it shines through when you actually go knock on those doors and when you actually do the job. So, don't cut yourself short. You bring a lot to the table. Doesn't matter how many degrees you have or schooling, that it's irrelevant. Your life experience, it brings a lot of important things to the table, and just really focus on those things. And I think that just knowing that, a lot more people will actually understand that they have the ability to do it and they can do it. So find it in yourself, and then go out there and just do it.
Thank you. And Senator Wilson, talk a little bit about, please answer the question about increasing the numbers of LGBTQ women, but also were you recruited to run for office for the state legislature?
Well, no. No. So I never thought I would be where I was ever. I also came from the outside. And I did sit on the school board for 8 years, and I'll be very honest and just put myself right out there. I didn't know you were supposed to ask people for money. And I couldn't figure out how people could run for office and how come that after they could pay for it. Seriously. So my first year on the school, my first 4 years, I knew about schools, but I had no idea about the political process. Never missed an election in my life, but had no clue about the outside. And so I did explore, because somebody asked me if I'd ever consider running for higher office, and I kind of laughed a bit. And I have 2 kids, 20 and a 22-year-old, so I think I'm going to come at this from a different age perspective as well. And there's no way I could afford to run, knowing what the salary was and having 2 kids finishing high school and in college. I couldn't do it. I'm a single woman by myself. And so I had to put that aside. I also was 60 and 3 months away from 25 years at my employment and lost my position, much because of my age. And after 25 years, so was in a place where I had to find where my next best space was. And so went back and met Emerge. And so Emerge is really what gave me, that whole idea women have to be asked how many times before they will ever do anything once. And to be very honest, in the application, one of the questions was, what position will you run for? And I had run for school board twice, so I didn't want to do that again. I live in an unincorporated county area, so, and I liked my county council, so I didn't want to take that space, because that right now is I'm being represented by someone in my own community. And the House seats, like I said, we flipped, but there was this one little seat that just needed fixing, and that was the Senate. And that's when I decided to do that. So youth has always been a thing for me. I also sit on a Washington Leadership Board now in my role in the Senate. I have the commission, and in the last 2 weeks have been involved in a number of conversations with young people across our state who identify. So now we'll be connecting them to the commission. But I also always say I'm saving my seat for you. And wherever I am, I'm saving my seat because I'm merely here to be a space holder. And then the other thing I'll just say is, you know, nobody that came into the Senate when I came in had ever been in the Senate before. And none of us had ever been in the House. And I had no idea there's this process that you're kind of supposed to go through. Starting in the House, and then that's where you train, and then you move to the Senate, apparently. And there were 6 of us that came in, and none of us had been in any of those spaces. So we clearly came in with the best intention around changing the world for everyone. And so that's what we started to do. So my job is to create the pathway for everyone else who's going to follow me. And I'm just saving a space and doing the best I can do to change the world until they get there.
I love it. Thank you. You know, based on that, I'm going to ask the 3 of you, were you recruited to run for your seat? Delegate Roem? Were you
Yes.
recruited? You were? And how about you, Director?
No, I was just crazy enough to run for my seat.
Representative Teton, were you recruited to run for your seat?
The county party chair suggested that I do it. So if that counts as being recruited, I guess maybe. But nobody wanted to run in the seat that I'm in. So it was kind of like, this seems like the good time to do it.
Well, I find that encouraging. Because I, as I said at the onset, that there has been a shift since the presidential election in 2016. From the Women's March to the Virginia elections in 2017, the 2018, the 2019 elections have been all about women. I mean, people say we're in the year of the woman. I say we're in the century of the woman when it comes to electoral politics. And LGBTQ women have to be a part of that if we're really going to move policy, the priorities on family, racism, healthcare forward. So with that, I'm going to get off my soapbox because this is about you all, not me. But talk a little bit about, let's start with you, Senator Wilson. Did you experience any homophobia or any sort of pushback when you were running?
To the tune of over $1 million in IEs, and I'm an abomination, and the gentleman whom I beat, that I always say shall remain unnamed, was very much supported by the Archdiocese and voted against the ban on conversion therapy, on marriage equality, anything that had to do with reproductive rights or access to health care. Thank you, Delegate Roem. And was absolutely unconscionable, and has continued to be so. And so much where we have unusual partners now that show up. And I'll tell you, not only with the commission, but I also passed a comprehensive sexuality health education bill, K through 12 this last session, which includes supporting and covering protected classes, which includes young people who identify and who are trying to find their space in this world, and a safe space to ask questions and get the right information so they can make the best choices they can to have the best life they can for themselves. And that has probably brought the most stress and distress to this community. Also, I'll just say the LGBTQ commission that I did this last Saturday, we had a second commission meeting and we were hacked on Zoom, and that was also quite distressing. So, but I've been who I've been for almost 65 years. And so I walk the same way I've always walked. I'm the same way I am in every room. And when I need to lead with that, then I lead with that. When I lead with something else, but it's part of who I am, and I'm about a greater good And I'm about trying to find places where we agree, and then creating a room at the table and wondering who's not there, and then developing solutions from there. And if we stay at a place where we're diametrically opposed, we're never going to move this forward. And I also understand equity, and I understand privilege and bias, and I'm not afraid to lift it up and call it out. Because again, representation matters, and that's my job.
Thank you. And so, Director Lewis, I'm going to ask you the same question, and each of you the same question, but in a different way. So, Director Lewis, because I know that homophobia can come in different forms. Did you experience it when you ran?
You know, I think this is a good time to talk about the intersections of our identities. And so as a Black queer woman, I experienced varying levels of oppression throughout my campaign. Some of that was attributed to homophobia, some of that was racism, and some of that was sexism. And so at any point during my campaign, that was often coming up. I would say what came up most often, because when you see me, folks typically don't know that I am queer, but you certainly know that I am a Black woman when you look at me and I step into a room. And so that's the thing that came up most often, was that I was Black and then I was a woman. And so my credentials were questioned, my experience was questioned, my intelligence, my brilliance were all right on the question, on the table with question marks on them from certain demographics. To answer the question that's also in the chat about the thing that I would tell myself, it was just to run my race, right? I would continue to remind myself that if I was looking to the left and if I was looking to the right, that I might fall. And so it's much more beneficial for me to just keep moving forward and run my race. And those who knew that I was qualified, who knew that I would represent them, who knew that I came from communities and backgrounds and experiences as they did, and that I would fight for those on the margins, and I would fight for our most vulnerable citizens. I didn't have to talk about my race. I didn't have to talk about my sex. I didn't have to talk about my gender. I didn't have none of that was important. Only thing that they cared about is if I was going to make sure their bus showed up on time when we said it was going to come, and got them to the places that they needed to go. So it came, but it came in layers of oppression.
It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Sure.
For bringing that up and addressing that, because it is so prevalent today. And that intersectionality, I swear to God, it is such a challenge, but when you meet it with grace, like you just described, I mean, how can you help but not be successful, right? So Representative Tatone, how about for you? You were running in a non-traditional seat. No one expected you to really pull this off. Was there any challenges when it came to homophobia for you?
It was because my race was so far off the radar that, even Democrats didn't think I was going to win. The Republicans really didn't think I was going to win. And because of that, it wasn't like Delegate Roem's race where she had to deal with lots of backlash and lots of direct attacks at her gender identity. They didn't bother. They just felt like, why should we go out and try to disparage someone because they're not going to win anyway. So just stay out of it and don't worry about it. And we're just going to run away with this and win. And, I just said, okay, that's fine. You don't have to say anything about me. I'm going to go do exactly what Director Lewis said, do my work as a candidate and go talk to people about what's important to them. And they can go take a nap and go sleep or whatever they're doing. And this is the tortoise and the hare routine. The hard work pays off. You go and you win because you want it. And you show people that you want it, and you show people that you want to do the work. Now I hear a lot more transphobic stuff on the Republicans' Facebook page, but if they want to yell into their echo chamber all they want, let them do that. Sometimes it spills over And when it does, you know, a lot of people that are supporters of mine will go and, you know, handle it and tell them that they're being a bunch of idiots on that respect. But you know, I just let people say what they want, and I just don't let it distract me, and I just keep moving forward and just do the work. And I let that, you know, rising above really show that that's why I'm really good for this job, is because, you know, I kind of, you know, consider myself to be Teflon in that respect. Go ahead and say what you want. It's going to brush off me because I rise above.
Terrific. And then Delegate Roem, if there's something you would like to address on this, please do. And then I want to pivot right after that to policy making.
Sure. So look, when you take on the self-described chief homophobe of Virginia, who authored our state's constitutional ban on marriage equality, which is now unconstitutional, and the bathroom bill, had filed 4 anti-LGBT bills just in the year that I ran alone and all the rest of it, you know what you're getting yourself into. You're well aware that when you're trans and you're running against someone like that, yeah, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck for the next 10 months and 4 days of your life. And you just do this a lot. Every single day, all around the clock. Every day, and you stick on talking about what your campaign is. Fix Route 28, bring high-paying jobs to Innovation Park, fill the office vacancies in Manassas Park, feed hungry kids in schools, expand Medicaid to 3,800 people in the 13th district, and actually pass inclusive bills so that no matter what you look like, where you come from, how you worship, if you do, or who you love, you are welcomed, celebrated, respected, and protected in Virginia because of who you are, not despite it, and not for what discriminatory politicians tell you you're supposed to be.
That was very good. I'm very impressed. So with all of that said, I would love all of you to talk a little bit about policy making. Women, LGBTQ women, women of color are really, I believe, changing the dialogue at the table, the policy making table. And besides running and winning these seats, is that changing also the policy making, your presence, and the ability for other candidates to really hook on to some of those issues and be able to take on those open seats, those challenger seats, beating incumbents because of that policy making that you all are driving. Delegate Roem, do you want to start?
Sure. Can you rephrase the beginning of that, or just say it one more time?
Sure. The difference that women of color, and LGBTQ women serving now in positions at the local, state, and federal level, changing policy making, and are those policies and those dialogues and what's in the echo chamber actually helping LGBTQ women run for office, because the what we're talking about is better for candidates that are LGBTQ women.
So in the short answer, I think, is that as society as a whole recognizes that society is not just one demographic group, and one demographic group doesn't get to make all the decisions, even though one demographic group has been overrepresented for the duration of American society, dating back to colonial days, since Jamestown was founded in 1607 right here in Virginia, and since the Virginia House of Burgesses was established, you know, in 1619, which is the same year that enslaved Africans were taken against their will arrived here to build up Virginia. That I think you have to recognize that LGBTQ women stepping up to fill a void here, we are inherently coming from a lived experience that is different and brings different worldviews to the table. And that means we have different policies to the table. And that when LGBTQ women see us being successful in our legislatures and see us being successful in local office as well, what they then see is, oh, I have an ally. Maybe they can help work on this with me. Hey, I have an idea for a bill. they would have never passed this before, but now there's someone who's like me who gets it. And very, very often, ideas that come up where you're like, oh, man, no one's going to get it. No one's going to understand it. Then you have someone on the inside, someone who's been elected, who does get it and who actually can put it forward. Then you can get stuff done. Look, I mean, like, here's a great example. Delegate Danica, she champions lowering the mortality rate for new moms, and for especially dealing with women of color who have an exponentially higher mortality rate during birth than white women do. We've managed to figure out public policy this year that we passed to actually address that issue. And that is because you actually have people from the community with lived experience sharing their, not just experience, but their ideas and solutions, bringing that to the table way before we even get to subcommittee in order to craft a bill, to put in the appropriate, appropriations to go with it and get something done. So I guess the bottom line on this is that as we see policy successes on issues that directly affect our communities, then we will encourage more women and out women to run for office in the first place and to bring their ideas forward so that we can turn them into law.
Terrific. That's exactly, that was a great answer. Senator Wilson, I know you've been on the forefront around policy as well that has to do with LGBTQ equality, sort of taking it to the next level. Talk about that and what that's potentially going to do, inspiring others to run.
Well, I think for me, it's almost like the multi-generational thing where, again, I represent a population that is still wondering and questioning themselves what the hell is going on. And part of that is, and what I talk to them about, to be really honest, is the issue around fluidity and how young people are presenting themselves now in a very different way than was acceptable in the past, even though it's very much what an adolescent's job is, to explore and to try things on. And did we forget that? And what did we try? So those are those kinds of things. And I think for me, what I'm going to say is, policy is critically important. And I think those lenses are important in talking about families. So not just talking about myself, but talking about young people and their experiences, not only as a parent, but as a woman who has tried to walk this world herself and come from a time when, teachers with pride still had to hide. So, I was a teacher for 10 years and I lived in one place and taught someplace else so I could be my whole self, which is just unconscionable. It should just never be. But I also think we have problems on the other side around policy once you get there. And that's the work I've also been doing. So are we not only looking at statewide policy, but issues like, as a woman and a single woman and a lesbian woman who has never made the same amount as a man, to have to upfront money for offices and for rent and for all supplies, all those kinds of things. And I say, so do I pay my rent? Do I pay my mortgage? Do I buy food, or do I pay a year of a district office that I don't have? And has anybody else ever asked these questions? So I've been also able to talk to the caucus and talk to our whole group about, it's not just coming in, because nobody tells you what's on the other side. I didn't even know we got a per diem. I couldn't figure out how I could live in one place and legislate in another place because nobody told me that I got money. So there's one thing to get people there, but then you got to get them there, support them, and keep them there. And so that's the other piece of this is just like any other position, it's sustaining and retaining. And that's how you create the pathway.
I love it. Thank you, Senator. And Representative Tatone, talk about attraction over promotion, the work you all did in the legislature this time. Talk a little bit about that and what you see as expanding LGBTQ candidates running for office potentially, as it from policy all the way to attraction of getting more people involved?
Yeah, well, I mean, Colorado has really been one of the leaders in LGBTQ IA plus equality, and really making sure that we are making space for everyone with gender markers on the birth certificates, making sure that we are helping out trans people getting health care through Medicaid, and also banning conversion therapy. And then just this year, we banned the gay and trans panic defense. We're the 11th state in the country to do that. And that bill almost died because COVID. We went away for COVID. We came back and they're like, oh, we got to kill a bunch of bills. So they killed that one. And to Director Lewis's comment about intersectionality, I heard everybody outside saying Black Lives Matter, and I said Black trans lives matter, and they really matter. We gotta stand up for them, and I worked really hard to get that bill back because Representative Leslie Herod was busy doing a police accountability bill, and I took up the reins on that to make sure that we got that bill passed this year, because that's part of what we were seeing in another area that we needed to address. And I wanted to make sure that we were addressing that and not putting it on the table and waiting for next time. So, when people see these kinds of things happening, people start paying attention and seeing who's running these bills, who are actually on the forefront of these things. And I hope that, what we do and how we present ourselves and the authenticity that we bring really inspires people to want to do this work. It is a noble career that you can do. It may not pay a lot, but the reward that we get for helping and inspiring people, especially those young people who are looking for those role models, it really brings up a lot of emotions when I see a lot of young LGBT, especially trans kids these days, and the struggles that they go through, and how we are laying the foundation right now to make their world a better place. And we didn't have that when we were growing up, and I am so grateful to be part of that foundational movement right now to get that done. And please, let us pave that path and take over from where we are and make sure that representation does matter and it continues into the future. It doesn't, it's going to end with someone else down the line. It's not going to end here. We're just setting things up for everyone else.
Thank you. And Director Lewis, I know we have a few minutes left. Please weigh in on this, and then I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to give your best shot about running outside of cities.
Sure. I love this question. So with the Regional Transportation District, when I first decided that I was going to run, a lot of folks asked me how I was going to do that, because most folks who serve on the RTD board are typically retired. It's the place that it had the reputation that that's where people go to retire. And it's also where people who have full-time jobs typically don't go, because you need to be able to take care of your families with residual income. And so when you ask the question about what difference my presence has made, I think one of the things that we're seeing, and I'm so excited about this, we are looking for a new general manager, CEO, and we've whittled it down to our semifinalists, and all three are women. And that is exciting, as in our entire history as a public transportation agency, we've never had a woman run our public transportation agency. And so that's exciting, right, to think about the influence and the impact from that. I mean, I think that happens when you have folks on the RTD board who have that experience and who can call out sexism in our selection process, right? Who can call out biases in our interview processes. We've also started talking about equity, and not just social equity, or not just equity, but social equity from a transportation lens. And that's important because we have COVID, right? And we're seeing budgets be slashed, and that's going to impact our riders, right? You feel those things at the local level. And one of the things that I brought into the conversation every single time I open my mouth is to talk about those that are vulnerable, than those that are on the margins, right? And when you come from that background, it's easy for you to remember that, because I was the little girl on the bus who I didn't want folks to forget about, right? Whose bus.
Did we just lose Chantel? Director Lewis, can you hear us? I'm going to let, while we wait for her to come back, we've got a few minutes before this.
Here. Woo! I'm here.
Senator Wilson.
I'm here. I jumped off my.
Why don't you say, we have less than 2 minutes.
Okay. Can I
Just
say
goodbye? Each of you get 30 seconds. Go.
Okay, my thing is 2011, the guy I beat told me to get 50% +1 and knock on doors, and that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what you need to do. And the other thing is people are willing to invest in people if you're willing to ask, and I was always one that invested in issues, but you got to ask for that, and people will support you, and it takes money, and all they can say is no. Critically important, do it. And then find a merge.
All right, I love it. Representative Tatone.
Yes, Emerge is a great organization. Go get trained, find your expertise, find the office that you can run for, find people that can help you, reach out to public figures who are already here. I reached out to people and talked to them. What's it like running for office? What's it like doing that? I reached out to Delegate Roem. Reach out to me if you want. I mean, it doesn't have to be in your state or your area. There are a lot of people who want to see you succeed, and we will help you. You just have to ask the question and put your hat in there, and you can do it.
Excellent, thank you. Director Lewis, you get 30 seconds.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened, but I'm happy to be back. I don't know what the question is, but in my talks all the time.
What are your last parting words for this recorded Netroots most awesome session?
Beautiful. Run for office. I think the biggest barrier that you are going to run into is yourself. You are going to doubt yourself. You are going to talk yourself out, or you're going to tell yourself that you can't raise money, that you're not good enough, that you're not smart enough, blah, 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 blah. It's all a lie. Stop lying to yourself. Stop betraying yourself. We need you in that office. We need you in that seat. So run for office. And not only that, I will donate to you. And I mean that, even if it's $5. And I always hold on to that. Any woman that I've told to run for office, and she does, I always donate to her campaign. So run for office. Find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and I will actually donate to you because we need more folks like you in office.
Thank you. Delegate Roem, you get the last 30 seconds.
About a week after I launched my campaign in 2017, someone sent an email out who was a conversion therapy advocate saying that the reason I was trans was because my dad killed himself when I was a kid and my grandfather was an inadequate male role model. Around that same time, I also received a message from a woman down in Roanoke whose daughter had come out right before the 2016 campaign and started presenting as the little girl who she is in school. She got the crap kicked out of her and she was not doing well. And at one point she tried to jump out of a second-story window because she felt like no one would understand who she was or what she was going through. And then her mom came across the first story about my campaign that came out in Metro Weekly. She gave it to this girl. She remembered reading it over and over. And she said, "There's hope in this." And she gave it to her daughter, and her daughter read it repeatedly. And she looks up at her mom and she goes, "She's just like me." She's like, "Yeah, she's just like you." "How does she do it? How does Danica put herself out there?" And she goes, "Well, because she knows who she is." That little girl showed up in my campaign and she campaigned with me as a kid. She campaigned and she knocked on the doors. Her and her mom drove hundreds of miles to help. Then on election night, when we defeated a 13-term, 26-year incumbent who's 40 years my senior by 8 points, I got out of my car and I saw her there in the parking lot. I picked her up, I looked her in the eye, and I told her, "You can be president. You can be whatever you want because we just won this race." Don't ever, ever forget that when you run, you have the ability to inspire the next person to run after you. Not just now, not tomorrow, not just next year, but in a generation to come. And now that little girl, her life motto is, if Danica can do it, so can I.
I love that story. Thank you for wrapping us up. Thank you all. Thank you, Netroots. Thank you, Emerge. And I guess we'll see you in the virtual hallway. Thank you all. Thank you for your service.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.